What's up, guys? Today I'm going to share a little bit about some things that my therapist showed me. Some really eye-opening things, that we find in our marriages and relationships all the time. Like criticism, defensiveness, contempt, stonewalling, the Gottman theory, if y'all know anything about that. They're really big on relationship healing and ways to look at different things. So I'll share what I got here. Criticism. There's four horsemen and their antidotes. The horsemen are behaviors that escalate conflict and damage a relationship. Over time, these harmful behaviors may become a normal part of communication between partners. And their antidotes. Antidotes are skills that replace each of the four horsemen. These skills help resolve conflict and encourage positive feelings between partners. Criticism. Wow, that's a big one, right? If you've been married a long time, and some relationships have criticism in it. Criticism, dealing with problems through harsh blaming or hurtful expressions of judgment or disapproval, where the focus is perceived on personal flaws rather than changeable behaviors, often met with defensiveness from the other person. Example, the kitchen is a mess, you're such a slob, right? So what's the antidote, or something that we can replace instead of talking with criticism and focusing on perceived personal flaws of a person? We can do a gentle startup. Gentle startup is dealing with problems in a calm and gentle way. The focus is on the problem, not the person. Save the discussion for an appropriate time. Use warm body language and tone of voice, and use your I statements. Example, I feel frustrated when dirty dishes are left in the sink. Could you please do the dishes tonight? You can tell plain as day how one would make an argument start, right? Defensiveness, contempt, all of those things that you find. And the other one is more likely inviting to the other person to let you know that you feel frustrated, and is there a way that they can lovingly help you, right? The kitchen is a mess, you're such a slob. Guaranteed to start something. But I feel frustrated when dirty dishes are left in the sink. Could you please do the dishes tonight? That is so much better far as communication goes. And so something to keep in mind, the gentle startups, how we talk to people, it makes such a big difference in our relationships when we talk in the right ways, and we don't lead with criticism or accusing things, or things that can hurt a person, right? We want to lead on how we feel. That's what I'm learning, right? I feel frustrated when the dishes are left in the sink, right? If you love me, could you please do the dishes tonight? Big difference. Next, we go into defensiveness. It's deflecting responsibility for your own mistakes and behaviors, or refusing to accept feedback, right? We get defensive. If y'all have ever been in an argument, right? Somebody says something that hurts your feelings, you get defensive. You're likely to lash back out at them in criticism or contempt, or try to flip it on them because what they're saying probably hurts you, and you don't want to feel like you're wrong sometimes, and things like that. So that's where the shifting blame to your partner comes from, and trying to make excuses for your behavior. I am guilty of that, in my relationship at times, and I'm sure so many of y'all are as well. Example of defensiveness would be, it isn't my fault I yelled, you were late, not me, right? So obviously somebody showed up late, and then their spouse or whoever yelled at them, and then the other person was like, oh, you was yelling at me. Oh, it ain't my fault, you was late, not me, right? But there's no justification for the yelling. There isn't, right? He or she could have been calm, just calm about it, right? The one partner probably just didn't like the fact that they was late, and all of that. What's the antidote to defensiveness? Taking responsibility. Own up to your behavior without blaming others. Avoid taking feedback personally. That's something that so many people have a hard time with, taking feedback personally, right? Because we tend to feel like we're getting singled out, and most of us don't want to feel like we was wrong. Use feedback as an opportunity to improve, right? So take what your partner or whoever it is, take what they're saying, take responsibility of what they're telling you when they tell you something. Understand where there can be learning and growth at, and that's how you really move forward in a relationship. When you sit down and you understand what the other person's telling you, and you don't take it as defensiveness, you don't shift blame, you take it as that person is being loving enough to tell you the truth for you to listen to make improvements, right? Because they want to see you improve. They want to have a good relationship with you, and show remorse and apologize, right? So something else that could have been said. The first one was, "It isn't my fault I yelled. You were late, not me." And then the antidote of that would be taking responsibility. I shouldn't have raised my voice. I'm sorry. Okay? That being said, some people like, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't mean anything, but they do mean a lot. It does mean a lot, and that an apology or I'm sorry is sincere, right? And it comes from the heart in the moment. Because if a person is willing to step up to the plate and say it, then that means that they're acknowledging that they was wrong. As you can see in the first example of defensiveness. It isn't my fault I yelled. You were late, right? He took no accountability. So saying I'm sorry is taking accountability. And that's the big difference. When we lead with criticism, or, we have defensiveness versus gentle startups and taking responsibility for things, then we'll move forward to contempt, showing anger, disgust, or hostility towards your partner. Using put-downs or insults, acting superior to your partner, using a mocking or sarcastic tone. Now look, a lot of us have been there, right? I've been angry many times in my life with many of my relationships, right? Hostility towards my partner, other people, and my family, different things. We all live life. We all know how arguments can happen and different things, And yes, I have did put downs and insults, and sometimes we feel like, oh, you're not going to talk to me that way, right? Acting superior to your partner, all I do for you, and all of these other things that immediately go in our brains, right? And then we start mocking and using sarcastic tones, right? That's called contempt. It's very nasty stuff, because usually what'll happen is, when you start having contempt for someone, then they'll just come back with contempt for you. So then you're stuck in a contempt war, right? Putting each other down, insulting each other, both acting superior to each other, both mocking with sarcastic tones, right? That's the common argument. That's the common place where the enemy wants us to be at. The antidote for that would be to share fondness and admiration. Foster a healthy relationship by regularly showing each other respect and appreciation. Show affection. Recognize your partner's strength and give compliments, okay? Now, sometimes we find it hard, right? Because if we're in a disagreement or something's going on, it's hard to share that fondness and admiration if you're in the middle of a conflict or a disagreement, right? But we should never go into contempt and put people down. That's completely the wrong thing to do. And we should be following what God wants us to do and how He wants us to be, as far as being calm in the situation and just respecting each other. And if there can't be respect at that moment, then maybe take a break and go back to it at another time, right? Start looking at early signs of anger and hostility and try to shut them down. Use your breathing techniques and do whatever you can do to try to not get in that category of contempt. So another one of the horsemen are stonewalling. That's emotionally withdrawing or shutting down or going silent, or also known as the silent treatment, right, during important discussions. Often a response to feeling overwhelmed, used to avoid difficult decisions or problems. Underlying problems go unresolved. Well, I'm here to tell you that I have done that as well. I am a human. I've had, many arguments and fights and things like that in my relationships at times. And yeah, sometimes we don't want to have those emotional talks, right? Because we think they're going to lead to arguments or just lead down the wrong road. So we try to avoid them, right? We just say, oh, we dismiss it. I would put dismissive attitudes in the same category as stonewalling, because when you dismiss somebody, you're shutting down and not wanting to open up in that conversation. It's often a response of feeling overwhelmed, right? So we get a lot of overwhelmed, depending on what they're trying to talk about and what kind of emotions, we're feeling. We avoid the difficult discussions, and then the problems go, what does it say? Unresolved. Okay, both people leave the room, upset, and it really just puts a big toll on your relationship. Use self-soothing. Use relaxation techniques to calm down and stay present with your partner. Agree to pause the conversation briefly. Use your deep breathing techniques and use progressive muscle relaxation. So that's just some things that I wanted to share to everybody, because I have seen so much of this in my life. I really have seen a lot of criticism. I grew up in a household where my parents, they went at each other pretty regularly. Sometimes things got pretty nasty, spitting in each other's face and breaking stuff and throwing stuff across the room and calling each other the worst names in the book, and each of them being defensive and holding contempt for each other and stonewalling and in separate rooms for days and things like that. It's very important early on to start looking into these kind of things that I'm looking at, to know about the gentle startups and taking responsibility for things when your partner or whoever it is that you have in a relationship with comes to you with things, to not take it as criticism and not be defensive, and just try to build better relationships. So anyway, just sharing that with y'all. Y'all have a good day.